Good morning, Yasmine. We are so happy to welcome you, and thank you so much for finding some time to answer Ballet Icons platform questions. Yasmine Naghdi is our guest this morning. Welcome to our platform. Yasmine, we started this series during the quarantine and lockdown, and before we'll move to your life and your ballet career, I would like just to ask you, how was this difficult time for you in brief? I hope it was not only about hard and negative experience. You managed to reflect and maybe work on some positive and interesting things during this period. And of course, how did you maintain your ballet routine and your training?
Yes, exactly. So, of course, these are completely unprecedented times, and I don't think anyone really realized how serious this would be. And at first I thought this would be maybe a short period of time that we would be out, but then as soon as I started to see that this was something that would last a lot longer, then the reality hit. And at the Royal Ballet, we were going 100 miles per hour. We were working towards Swan Lake, and we were doing lots and lots of beautiful repertoire and working hard behind the scenes. So to go from 100 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour was quite a shock to the system. But as you said, when I realized that this was going to be something that was going to last a lot longer, I decided to invest my time in things that I wouldn't usually have time for. So I was already seeing an Italian teacher for lessons, but of course we switched to doing that on Skype because of the lockdown. So I would have Italian lessons twice a week to learn a new language, because I love languages. And then I also really enjoyed having more time to cook. And usually during the year...
You're not afraid, but of course with your beautiful statuesque figure, I don't think there's any danger.
Well, I think I'm very lucky. I have a very fast metabolism, and my body's obviously used to doing a lot of exercise, so I think having an active body definitely helps. Maybe that'll change once I hit a certain age, but I will find out.
Yet, it's not for a long time.
So yeah, I really enjoyed taking the time in the morning to decide what to have throughout the day, and have a really nice varied diet throughout the day as well. So it was nice to have the time and energy to be experimental with cooking as well. So I really enjoyed those two things, having time for those two things.
Right. Maybe by the end of this period, you will consider writing a book, Recipes from Yasmine.
You never know.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for sharing, and it's wonderful really to see you smiling and laughing. We have to be, of course, optimistic and be very, very patient, and we can't wait to be working with you again and to see you performing on your beloved stage of the Royal Opera House and on other stages. Sometimes it can happen. I switched off completely. And yes, I did. So it's a miracle. Yasmine, now going back to yourself and your training. Obviously, you went through very, very traditional training, very hard training. Can you share some memories of that time? What did you find the hardest? What was the most rewarding for you as a young ballerina during your training years?
I started with after-school ballet classes alongside my traditional schooling in London, and I was involved in the associates program through the Royal Ballet School that's separate to the vocational training. So it would be an every Saturday, some extra training of Royal Ballet School method. And through that, after a full year of doing that, they held auditions for White Lodge in Richmond Park, which is the vocational school where you do ballet alongside school. And in the first year, at 11 years old, I wasn't I didn't get a place. I wasn't accepted into the Royal Ballet School, which is funny to look back on now. And so I just continued with my secondary school in London and my after school ballet classes. And then
I'm sure to start with, you were extremely disappointed and maybe even heartbroken. And
yes, yes, I think my mother didn't actually tell me that it was an audition, because if I didn't get in, she didn't want me to have the disappointment. So in all
the
honesty,
wonderful mother, what a sensitive
yeah.
mother, she protected you.
Exactly. In all honesty, I didn't know. I had no idea that I wasn't accepted. It was only later that she told me. And the following year, what happened was the director of the associate program came to watch our Saturday ballet class. And she asked my mother, why hasn't Yasmine auditioned for the Royal Ballet School? And my mother said, well, she didn't get accepted last year, so we didn't think to audition this year. And so this director, Jackie Dumont at the time, contacted the then Royal Ballet School director, Gayleen Stock, to hold a private audition for me with the Year 7 girls at the time. And she accepted me straight away for the Year 8, which is the 12 to 13 year at the Royal Ballet School. So that was my journey into the White Lodge Ballet School. And then I did year by year and moved on to the Royal Ballet Upper School in Covent Garden, where I had my first year, full year. I did one day in the second year, and my director moved me up to the third year. And then 6 months in the third year, and Monica Mason, who is then the Royal Ballet director, asked to have me in the company starting in April 2010. So I had a very quick progression through the Royal Ballet Upper School.
The progression and success, amazing.
It was very exciting, and as a student, especially at that time, you want nothing more to just start in a ballet company. And of course, then my dream really was the Royal Ballet Company. So to achieve a place there at a very young age, I just turned 18, was a total dream come true. Very exciting.
What a beautiful story for so many young ballerinas who are dreaming to become famous ballerinas. What a story. And of course, bravo to your mother, who so sensitively did not explain to you what's happened originally. Amazing. How did you feel when actually you've been accepted at the company? Of course, you've been happy, you've been proud, but again, you realized it was a very big challenge, because this company is the top company in the world, and you have to now really to deliver.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remember feeling like a small fish in a big pond. You know, there's so much talent in that company and so many incredible dancers. And I felt so fortunate to just be in the studio there with all these iconic, beautiful dancers that I looked up to all of my student career. So to then be working alongside them was really inspiring. And of course, you start at the bottom and you have to learn the hard way. And I was often thrown into many different places. And I feel I proved myself a lot by learning a role at short notice and being able to perform these roles.
Well, it's a great ability when you're able to learn a role so quickly.
Yes. And I think you gain huge respect from your fellow company members and also the staff to see that you can be this reliable dancer. And it was an incredible learning experience for me. And I think I was able to get a lot of wonderful opportunities to prove myself. And then the promotion started happening.
You have indeed. What do you treasure the most in your dancing partner on the stage? Actually, on the stage during the performance, but off the stage during the preparation?
That's a lovely question. I really cherish trust. Trust is such an incredible feeling that you have between you in any form of relationship. And if you have that trust in the studio, then you can relax fully on stage. You've put in the work, you know how the other one operates, especially in a difficult situation. You know that you're in good hands, and then that creates a lovely bond between the two dancers that are on stage. And I think also to have a nice friendship outside of the ballet studio enhances that trust as well. So I really value that quality.
Beautiful. I might surprise you with some unusual questions. And of course, you being a famous, recognized ballerina, you've been interviewed on so many occasions by so many magazines and sides. But my next unusual question would be, or maybe even not so unusual, what is going through your mind before you're going on the stage? It's a very personal question, and maybe it's
lovely.
different on different days.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this art form, is that it's different every single time. You can prepare yourself the best possible, but on the day, it's in the moment, and there's no such thing that anything can't compare to live performance and live theatre. It's very in the moment. And it depends, we're human beings at the end of the day, and we go through all kinds of emotions through life. And that also reflects in our dancing, which I think is also a very beautiful thing, because it makes us vulnerable. So what I love to prepare in the studio as much as I can. You can get the technique strong, you can get the character strong, you get your body strong. So you know that you've prepared yourself in the best possible way to achieve the best performance. But then you have to allow yourself to have that vulnerability and allow your body to take over. It's like your soul starts dancing rather than your brain. It's a really lovely feeling when you have earned that trust in yourself as a dancer to let go on stage and just allow the music to carry you and your body to do it for you. You enter this trance-like feeling.
With you, such a well-trained and hardworking person, of course, the technique, everything happens anyway. It happens almost automatically. But I loved your comments on this. Very, very beautiful. Thank you very much. Can you reflect on some of your favorite classical roles? I'm sure there's more than just one.
Yes, exactly. I feel so lucky that I've danced many classical roles at this point in my career. And of course, the most testing are the ballets like The Sleeping Beauty and Swan Lake, Don Quixote, which is also very challenging stamina-wise, very physical.
We'll love your performances in this ballets, of course, very much.
Thank you. They're incredibly exhilarating and high energy. And I think something like Don Quixote leaves the audience wanting more. It's very uplifting. And these ballets are such genius creations to transport the audience to this happy place. And something like Swan Lake is so wonderful because I believe that the audience really understands the challenges that present themselves in this ballet, and it showcases,
especially in the main female role, of course, when you become a double person.
Exactly. And I think these ballets are really nurturing to an artist and a ballerina, especially because you're pushing your body to the absolute limit. And it's very nurturing as well. I feel in my best physical shape when I'm working on a classical ballet, because it's really the bread and butter for a ballerina.
Wonderful. Yasmine, what is your relationship with the contemporary dance? Could you tell maybe name a few choreographers who influenced your dance, your movement, and maybe even you as a person most?
Yes, absolutely. I grew up loving William Forsythe's choreography, especially in the Middle Somewhat Elevated. I remember hearing this music for the first time quite young and almost being a little bit scared because I found it quite aggressive.
And the first time you see choreography of Forsythe, you might be scared.
Yes. But I was so fascinated by the physicality of his movements and the extremities. And so I grew to really love his choreography. And also Yuri Kilian is a choreographer I greatly admire, especially his Petit Mort, which I adore the music first and foremost. And that's something I really connect with is music. And then of course I've had the pleasure of working with choreographers like Wayne McGregor, Christopher Wheeldon, David Dawson, and it's fantastic to work with these different characters and understand their psychology and the thoughts behind their creative process.
But thank you so much for sharing this. But how do you prefer for contemporary choreography differently? What is different during the preparation and performance between contemporary and classical? Which signals do you give to which signals your mind gives to your body?
Yes, That's a very good point, actually. I feel like it is a very much mind and body process, especially with the contemporary. It's an incredibly different creative process and preparation process as well, because with the classicals, if you're telling a narrative story, if you've got a character development, again, you add another element to your creative process. Whereas often with the contemporary ballets, they could be quite abstract as well and have no character development, or be just pure movement and dance and music. And it's a different poetry, it's a different language. And I really enjoy this challenge of trying to find something within it, something out of my soul and my character and personality that I can bring into these contemporary ballets.
Becomes much more personal when you
Yes.
do contemporary, and you relate much more to the language of the choreographer you're working with.
I think it's really lovely because you can make it organic. You tailor it to the way your body moves as well. Whereas maybe a classical, you need to be a little bit more by the book, follow the rule book a little bit. And with the contemporary, I think you can let yourself go and have artistic freedom with it.
Beautiful. How was your meeting and your impressions from Darcey Bussell? Because obviously you've met her and you've been working with her, rehearsing with her,
Yes.
being trained by her.
Yes, working with Darcey, I worked with her in my preparation for the opening night of Sleeping Beauty in our past Royal Ballet season. And of course, Darcey was a huge source of inspiration for me as a dance student working at the Royal Ballet School. So to work with someone who you idolized all those years ago is such a beautiful thing. And she's such a warm character with a lot to give. And she's had so much experience and worked with great choreographers and staff members herself. So it was wonderful. And we had a really good sort of bouncing relationship. She gave me her opinion. I sometimes said, okay, how about we try this? And then she would look. So it's lovely to have that rapport with your coach.
Absolutely. Well, I had my wonderful memories of Darcey and her working with Roland Petit, a memory which I will treasure for the rest of my life. Yasmine, and you, apart from, of course, being recognized as a fantastic ballerina, you becoming a person in whom press is becoming more and more interested, and you're giving different interviews for magazines such as Vogue. I think it's wonderful and very, very charming. If maybe until recent times, ballerinas were absolutely focused on their dancing and they would not come into public life. Now it's changing. And of course, you're a beautiful example of how you, as a very busy ballerina, doing some public appearances and interviews and photo shoots, to enjoy it. How is it for you as a young, beautiful lady?
I think you're so right in saying that back in the day, I think a ballerina used to be quite a mysterious character. People didn't really know who the person was behind the ballerina. And in this day and age, we have this wonderful social media that, you know, it can be good and it can be bad at the same time. And I think we need to assess how much of our personal lives, for example, that one wants to expose. I think it's really, I enjoy sharing sides of my personal life with my audience, because especially for the future generations, I think it's important to showcase my feelings and my impressions and experiences so that it can help them, you know, or if there's a student that's struggling with something, I'm very happy to offer advice, because I think it's so great to have mentors in one's progression in life. So I definitely enjoy that side. I think it's really wonderful. And I think ballet is such a beautiful art form that it really deserves a place in the public eye. And it's so wonderful to spread it to a wider audience as well, because we have our loyal fans, but I think it's very important to get ballet out to new audiences as well.
Absolutely. And of course, now when performing arts generally going through very challenging times, as we know, I think it's even more important for the artist and for artists who achieved so much as yourself to talk to the world and show who you are and how much hard work you've done and what you want to give to the world, and for more people to understand the great importance of the performing arts and finding ways of supporting performing artists in a month and in the years to come. And thank you so much for sharing. And our last question would be for today, of course, what would be your main advice to young dancers who are dreaming to become one day famous dancers? What would be your advice?
I feel like perspective is very important. And I think as dancers, we are so focused on the goal ahead, on our dreams, and it's very important to keep that focus and determination, but also to have a kindness to oneself, because we are human beings after all, that go through different emotions, that go through different experiences. And it's important to listen to how your body is feeling on a daily basis. And that's something I've really learned during this lockdown, is to really understand the flows of life, you know, the sort of the way the body feels on a day-to-day basis, to keep their goals very, very close to them, and not to give up when times get tough. Because if you look at the people who have succeeded, more often than not, they've gone through difficult times to get where they are, and it makes someone a lot stronger. Nothing worth having comes easy. And I really like that expression because it's so true. So I think that's something to keep in the forefront of the mind, and then to just listen to your body and understand your body and what it asks of you, and to also have interests outside of dance as well, because I think that can really enrich a dancer if it's an all-rounded person, if that person is able to have passions and focuses outside of dance as well. I think it can enhance the way one dances.
Yasmine, thank you so much for your honesty, for your inspiration, for giving us your time today. Yasmine Naghdi was our guest today for the Ballet Icons platform. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you performing and working with you very, very soon.
Thank you, Olga.
Thank you so much, Yasmine. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.